You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
And we're back for round 6, the final round of Swiss competition here in this ETS weekly before we cut to top 8. And we've got a pair of X and 1 players. I guess it's not X, it's 4 and 1. They're both 4 and 1 fighting for their top 8 lives. Even if they lose, they've got a shot at top 8, but a win is definitely in here for Mouche on Cambrai Party versus IlyaK on Stone Scar Aggro. So here to help me break down all the Eternal action for this round, and I guess for the rest of the tournament and the tournament up till now, it's LocoPojo. How you doing?
Yeah, we got an exciting matchup. So the Cambrai Party deck is a deck after my own heart. We have a lot of sort of aggressive, fun Cambrai stuff, topping out at 4 with Xenon Obelisk to sort of push that through and stand together to give you a little bit of defense. You have the really solid 2 drops of Awakened Student and Kothan the Far Watcher. Everything's nice and aggressive. And then if you actually want to get into a little bit of blue, at 5 and 6, you run Crystallize for a finisher and Scouting Party for a way to just sort of get a huge amount of units and typically finish the game in a rather spectacular fashion. Provides a lot of longevity to the deck and gives it a lot of offense. I think it's really interesting style. It's more oriented against control decks, but it does, due to its token-based strategy, have some good interplay with the Stone Scar decks. So that's what we're seeing from Ilya, and we've seen this particular matchup before. So like Ilya's Cinder Yeti and Shogun Scepter deck has Bandit Queen at the very top. It's just going to be trying to rush things down. Nothing too tricky here, just lots and lots of aggro.
Yeah, we saw IlyaK earlier today in his only match loss to that Argenport list. Just too much life gain to keep up with. But here he won't be staring down quite as much life gain. In fact, Mouche has, I believe, 0 ways to gain life in the entire 90. Instead, just playing out units and hoping that works out. We've seen this style of TJP, or we've seen like Time Justice Primal mid-range decks before. This is more of a recent take on it, where instead of being more Dawnwalker-centric with Cerso and False Prince, this is a bit more streamlined in its power requirements, so that Initiate of the Sands is much more consistent. You see here 7 time sigils. So this is a very carefully crafted power base and curve and distribution of threats, where it's just a whole lot of good stuff, like mid-range good stuff in the middle. But that, as you said, that Scouting Party Crystallize allows you to go over the top of other mid-range matchups. So we'll give these players the go-ahead and see how this matchup plays out. I like IlyaK's speed here in this kind of matchup, but will it be fast enough and hit hard enough to overcome what Mouche can present in the mid to late game?
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky question, and we'll see what the answer is very, very shortly. So Mouche has as an opener Initiate into Huru Banner, which will allow him to set up either Amber Acolyte or the Kothan. I think Amber Acolyte's setting him up for Sandstorm Titan seems like a really solid play for him, so he'll probably be quite happy to do that.
Yeah.
Ilya, in the meantime, is rolling a 2-1, so he's got at least 1 attacker in. Amber Acolyte should be the blocker for that one, and then Mouche should get access to a turn 3 Sandstorm Titan, which is exactly what you want against this early Stone Scar.
Yeah, pretty huge here that Mouche got the play, had the turn 1 Initiate against IlyaK's turn 1 Oni Ronin. That's going to make a huge, huge, huge difference here. Although Ilya does get to use Torch on the Initiate, so we won't be seeing a Sandstorm Titan come down this turn, but Kothan's not a bad consolation prize.
Yeah, I would say that the Torch not getting used on the Kothan means that Kothan is just going to do a lot of work for him. Mouche can actually even play Xenon Obelisk here and use it to block the champion, which not only sets him up for better scouting parties and Sandstorm Titans, but also just gets him into a pretty strong position. I would say that that's probably what he might want to go for. If he wants to go for Sandstorm Titan, that's also acceptable. Like, it gets him a lot more units on board, which is certainly a thing that's going to concern you if you're playing against the Shadow deck.
Yes, Xenon Obelisk is a really tricky card to figure out when to play against aggro. It's because it's simply a 4-cost card that doesn't really add to your board presence. It does make your current board presence better. It would have crucially taken Kothan out of torch range, as you talked about, and let it block this Champion of Chaos. But instead, this Champion of Chaos just comes on through. But Mouche draws a Vanquish for it here.
That Vanquish is just beautiful here. Not only does he get to kill the champion, but he also gets to attack with his Sandstorm Titan, start pushing the aggro back, and that's one of the big strengths of Sandstorm Titan in these decks. We do see the block with the Cinder Yeti on Kothan. IlyaK actually decides against it, takes the damage. So from here, Vanquish on the champion gets rid of the champion, and the Cinder Yeti is not going to match up very well against Sandstorm Titan. So
not yet,
good.
but we're going to see the Shogun Scepter come down here, make it a 6-4, and IlyaK has a Rapid Shot in hand. This is why he didn't want to trade off that Cinder Yeti, because if Mouche had the Vanquish for Champion of Chaos, IlyaK's hand would have been 2 weapons and a Rapid Shot with no units in play. So very, very crucial that IlyaK held on to this Cinder Yeti. And now we see it here, 6-4 Overwhelm. And yeah, it just comes in, beats down for 6. And Mouche does not want to block again, scared of that combat trick that IlyaK could have, because Rapid Shot's one hell of a card.
So meaningful here. Mouche can Scouting Party, and if he does, he gets a decent amount of stuff, but Zenith Obelisk might be the better option. I think he's dead if he plays Obelisk, because
there's one other option here.
Yeah, activating Kothan.
Yeah, get a 4-4 down. Could be the option here. A-Space happens first, and we'll see. The 4-4 matches up nicely against the 6-4, but so does 4 1-1s, especially against, this Oni Ronin. So, yeah. Mouche opts to go with the Scouting Party. Also makes Obelisk much more potent next turn.
Oh, the aggro? IlyaK has to kill Mouche in one turn, and that's just not going to happen here. Like, he can block with the Kothan, but like what basically happens is if he attacks with both of these units and then lays down a blocker, Mouche has a 2-3, a 4-4, 4 1-1s, and a 5-6, or he can just Obelisk and go for what is probably more lethal. So I think the Obelisk lethal is such a good setup that Mouche is going to have to really even consider blocking the Oni Ronin here. He does choose to block the 6-4, which means that he's got a better game, but he's not going to have lethal next turn.
Well, no, he still has lethal. Although, man, IlyaK drew double Rapid Shot. Because if you don't block at all, there's some things you die to, right? You die to Rapid Shot plus Torch or something like that. But here we just see, block and block. Both Rapid Shots come down. But, Desert Marshal means you can both Obelisk and hold up Marshal or something like that.
This is pretty gross.
I'm interested to see how many Yetis Mouche actually swings with here, though. Right, because
swings with all
it's not like you need to draw.
Doesn't play Obelisk. Yeah,
you could just draw something like 3 here instead. But we see the Obelisk come down. Yep, just 3 Yetis go through. Takes IlyaK down to 5. Still leaves an extra Yeti blocker back. And Mouche does not draw undepleted power, so only gets to play one of these units out. Awakened Student would be a 4-4, but Desert Marshal, can take out the Overwhelm on Cinder Yeti, and that's what we're going to see Mouche opt to go for here.
Yeah, that seems very strong. At this point, he's got a Chump Blocker that works out fairly well. Should do very well against the Shogun Scepter. I think he's probably willing to just take it from the Oni Ronin.
I would just double chump and give although IlyaK only has one card in hand, so yeah, Oni Ronin coming through is 0 outs.
No Outlaw.
That's lethal.
I guess it's not 0 outs, is it? Let's see here. We've got
Initiate pumps the board.
The pump. There you go. So
yep. Didn't have power in hand, but had something close enough in Initiative stance, and that will push through the lethal. Mouche takes game 1 here of this, win it into the top 8.
Yeah, Cambrai Tempo's a really fun archetype. I'm glad to see it coming back into the tournament scene. It's been months and months and months since we've seen a deck like this, and I think it's really, really exciting to see it running in again with just the only top end being Sandstorm Titan and Obelisk.
I guess the last time aggressive Cambrai makes an appearance here or there. I guess notably I went 9-0 with Cambrai aggro in a couple seasons ago when I last played in the ETS. So these aggressive, Obelisk decks, they kind of went away for a bit when Praxis really had its share of the metagame, just because there were so many ways to destroy Obelisk going around. But now that that's kind of on the down low, we see like Armory and Argenport making a comeback and Chalice making a comeback. It's starting to come back here as we see Mouche doing quite well with it.
Cool new archetypes there too. Have you seen the stuff with the Crown Watch Paladin? Like, I think that's a card that kind of fits into these slots pretty well on occasion. So
Yeah, that card can really struggle when the ground gets gummed up, but depending on the right metagame, Crown Watch Paladin certainly is a strong card. So both players sideboarding here.
I forgot the name of the card. The new 3/4 with the life.
Oh yeah. I've been playing around with like a Combray-ish Minotaurs list where you get to play Ornamental Daggers and Tavrod, and turns out there's another. There's quite a number of Combray Minotaurs. Like there's the 4/4 Overwhelm with Aegis. There's the 3/4 that you talked about, so you can turn it into an Empower Enabler with Mystic Ascendant and daggers, and it's really, really fun. I've been playing around with that, but there's some stuff to do with Combray still that's out there, even if the straight vanilla Combray is still quite potent.
It's quite good stuff. If you're going for like the aggro archetype, you can put Gilded Glaives on them. You can put Ornamental Daggers on them. Of course, it's really fun to trigger.
Vodakhan Staff.
Vodakhan Staff is lovely. I really want to play a little bit more with that card. I'm so I think Vodakhan Staff actually might have a lot of interesting options again, which will be really cool to see.
Yep. So anyway, these players are still sideboarding. I'm guessing Mouche is going to bring in all 4 Permafrost. That card is quite good against Stone Scar. Not sure what else could come in here. Humbug Swarm's a sweet card, but I don't know if this is the matchup where you want it.
A little too slow. Do you think you bring in the Auric Runehammers against the sort of aggressive style?
Yeah, I could see just even swapping out. Like as I said before, Obelisk isn't really what you want against these super aggressive decks. So honestly, I could see just trimming down on the whole token plan altogether and going with like the Auric Runehammers, the Permafrost, and just let your mid-range threats be mid-range threats.
Be an interesting way to change things up. I think it's sort of equivalent in terms of how it matches up against Stone Scar. Like we saw that Mouche won this game by actually winning with the token strategy, being more aggressive than the aggro deck.
Yeah.
But like if you're going into a more slow control style, not only do you get to change up your game plan so that your opponent can't sideboard around it, you also might just fall into a better run against whatever it is that Ilya's sideboarding.
So this match is underway. IlyaK had the turn 1 Pyro Knight into turn 2 Rakano Outlaw. Mouche had the initiative sands though, and it's still alive here. So gets to play out Amber Acolyte. Has a Permafrost and an Obelisk in hand, but not a whole lot else. The rest is power. And this is what I was talking about. Obelisk, not at its best in this aggro matchup sometimes when you're on the back foot like this. Although IlyaK's stuck on power, so he's only going to get to play out Outlaws. But that's a pretty good 2-drop to have against a board of just X1s or X2s.
Yeah, Mouche can now play the Xenon Obelisk early and get himself some decent benefit, but the better option might be to just double Permafrost. The main problem here is that Ilya's sitting on 2 Bandit Queens at the top, so if he draws into his power, which he might not, he's stuck on 2, he could end up with a really, really definitive way to win the game. Yep,
so Mouche will have to use the Permafrost here to take out these quick draw Outlaws, right? If you played Obelisk there, you still wouldn't have been able to block them. So here we go. IlyaK responds in kind by finding a Suffocate. Not power, but still good. But Mouche draws a Sandstorm Titan here.
Mouche's aggression here, I think he's definitely doubled down on this idea that if he can beat IlyaK down, then that's going to really help out. IlyaK with the top decks, though, he's not getting his power, but he is getting the removal he needs to really start matching up.
Yeah, he's not drawing power, but he's drawing exactly what he needs if it's not power. So, you know, the good cheap stuff here from IlyaK. And now if he starts drawing power is going to be real set up. Instead finds a Pyro Knight with a couple War Cries on it. And Mouche has just a Desert Marshal, which will be a 3/2, able to trade with this Pyro Knight.
Step, but he does get to basically knock one Pyro Knight out with the Silence and block the other one.
Mm-hmm.
So that gets him a little bit of extra damage through that route since he takes another 2 from the Overwhelm, but it means that he's not going to have to deal with something big later.
Yeah.
I actually think it might have been correct to silence the one with Overwhelm, considering that he's just, like, IlyaK's still stuck on 2.
Yeah,
There's a rapid shot. Just push in all the damage you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that idea of taking out the overwhelm damage, because that Pyro Knight getting ultimated is so far away. But Mouche here with maybe the perfect top deck for this situation. Kothon ultimate activates, puts down 2 huge units here, one of which has endurance and can put a counter clock down. But Queen is still lethal.
Yeah, if he gets 4, and there it is.
Boom. Queen comes down. Mouche is at 3 because that overwhelm damage matters. And boom, comes through. Of course, that that was huge. So Mouche just had a little too much power there in the mid to late game, and Ilya eventually found it, and Bandit Queen took it on home.
One player on almost no power as Stone Scar, one player on way too much as another aggro deck. I think it ended up siding in the favor of Ilya, especially once he started picking up the power. But man, those top decks, those were some really good top decks.
Yeah. Ilya desperately wanted power, and then desperately wanted Annihilate, found the Annihilate, kept the pressure going, and then found the power when he actually needed it. But that's going to take us to game 3. That was game 2. So we get even more win and in action here, as this is going the full set. Players are both tied up 1-1, both at 4-1 overall with their match record. And whoever wins this match is definitely a lock for top 8. The loser probably makes it in on breakers, but no guarantee there. So quite a bit riding on this game 3 here.
Indeed. All right, here we go for the marbles. We got Seed of Progress, Time Sigil. The Awakened Student is a pretty good opener for Mouche, but he needs more units. He does have Obelisk, which is probably going to be a meaningful play on turn 4, but if he doesn't find some early stuff to do, that's going to be a big problem for him.
Yeah, but Mouche keeps it here. Yeah, the Permafrost is a nice card to have as well, and the fixing's all exactly what you want. The most critical thing here, again, Mouche is on the play this time. So far, the player on the play has won every game. Of course, it's only a 2-game sample size, but that is a nice curve for Mouche here as he rips a Seraph off the top.
Yeah, Mouche can now play down Awakened Student as a blocker, or he can Permafrost the Pyro Knight. The Permafrost should probably be preserved for the Champion of Chaos, as much as it hurts to take that extra bit of damage. Ilya here attacking in, pretty happy to either exchange with the Awakened Student or just get the damage in. So either way, pretty good to be on the offense.
Wow, Ilya missing a 2-drop, though. Mouche might swing here, and yeah, that's what we see. We're just going to go into a race, as Mouche has a 2-drop, a 3-drop, an Obelisk, and 2 removal spells to back them up. And Ilya's got removal of his own, but Annihilate doesn't hit anything in play right now. Well, at least not on Mouche's side of the board.
Cinder Yeti's value may be in removing blockers, but if Mouche isn't blocking, then he doesn't really care that much. He gets to Obelisk here and swing, or he can do a big play with the Permafrost and Vanquish. But I think just 9 damage across is so much that the Stone Scar deck is going to have to give some pause and think about how it's going to solve this.
The problem is Ilya can't really take his foot off the gas, because Mouche's hand is Permafrost Vanquish. If he ever does that, he's dead anyways, as we just see this Awakened Student grow out of control, and Seraph just starts off so strong anyways. Mouche only drawing power for turn here, debating on whether or not he wants to even use like a Permafrost, I guess, before combat, as Ilya could, out of desperation, use a defensive Rapid Shot here.
Yeah, defensive Rapid Shot would be a little tricky. He kind of wants to hit the 3-2 to reduce the clock on him, but there's also the possibility that the Pyro Knights get big. I think Mouche is pretty keen on ending this game as fast as possible, in which case I think the Permafrost on the Pyro Knight is correct, but we do see defensive Rapid Shot.
Yep, there it is. Mouche still kind of happy to see Rapid Shot used in a defensive manner. That's usually a win anyways. We might just see a follow-up Permafrost post-combat to keep Mouche ahead in this race by taking out one of these threats.
And by hitting the 3-2, even if the Pyro Knight upgrades, he's got Vanquish. So he'll take a lot of extra damage from it that way, but it's not going to be the end of the world.
So both players just flailing around with their singular threat. Mouche has the ability to make more threats eventually, especially with an Obelisk in play. That's pretty strong. While Pyro Knight could eventually get upgraded, as we'll see that happen here. 6 in from Ilya, but he's also only at 5. Mouche could have drawn a Initiate for lethal, but instead finds an Amber Acolyte and gets to vanquish the 6-5.
And that's enough to activate his obelisk, and if he gets into a situation where he can't attack, which I think is highly unlikely, he can even activate Seraph. But the activated obelisk is going to do it. Ilya should be out of this round.
Yeah, Ilya, we know has an instigator in hand, but that's not going to get the job done. Blood Beetle as well just is going to proc instigator triggers. So Mouche currently has lethal on board.
Yeah, with this Annihilate, it's lethal against the instigator, so that will be game.
Yep, instigator in play means Ilya's dead, and Mouche just goes with the old-fashioned curve-out beatdown on the play as, the player on the play gets the win in every game of that match. So that's not all that happened there, but it was certainly a big part of it when you have these aggressive board, just clashing with the little units all over the place kind of style of decks as Mouche takes that one 2-1 over Ilya.
Possibility of pulling it through, but without a 2-drop to shore up those Pyro Knights, he just didn't have the ability to either generate the aggressive behavior that he wanted or defend himself against the Seraphs running in with obelisks on top of them. So a lot of overwhelm, a lot of good old-fashioned aggression, Mouche choosing wisely to become the beatdown and doing a really, really good job with it.
Yeah, it's all about just reading the game, reading your hand, reading the board. And Mouche is like, this hand's telling me I'm the beatdown. The way this game's played is telling me I'm the beatdown. I'm going to be the beatdown here. And that's, really well done in that recognizing that and executing it. So with that, I don't know if we have any backups. There will be a backup. So we're working on finding a nice match to duck in on. But in the meantime, let's check out the standings. Kamado locked up 6-0, the only undefeated player to go through the Swiss. So congrats to Kamado. Definitely a lock for top 8. I believe Kamado brought Argenport mid-range. Yeah, so Tavrod taking the 6-0 slot in the very first tournament that he was legal to play in. Can't say I'm too shocked by that. That's a sweet card and a sweet cow. Let's see how other match results are playing out. Who else is 5-1? All right, Serb is 5-1, SkiJ is 5-1, Mouche is 5-1, and Keeper 5-1. So that's already 5 players locked in to the top 8. We'll do the full archetype breakdown once we get to top 8. All right, it's sounding like we might not actually get a backup. There's not too many matches left outstanding. So instead, we'll just take a let's see here. We'll take a look at some of these top 8 decks, I guess, and see how the rest of the standings are playing out. Serb was on Argenport mid-range as well. SkiJ on Rakano Plate gets to 5-1. Mouche, we just saw, get to 5-1 on Cambrai Party. And Keeper on Chalice. So some new stuff, some old stuff, but some good stuff all around. So with that being said, I think we're going to take a little break here. And then we'll be back for top 8 coverage. 2 players at 4-2 will make it in. So will it be Ilya? Will it be somebody else on Breakers? We'll find out just after this short break.
See you soon, folks.